You're listening to the Couch Friends podcast with Crystal, Jenna, and Christy.
Welcome back to the Couch Friends. We're so happy to be here today, especially because this week we had some crazy stuff going on. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say we have an extra person joining us today for this episode. It's my wonderful friend Jonelle. So we're just going to say hi, Jonelle. Hi, Jonelle. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so this week we had a Hurricane Milton. He was really big and nasty.
And scary.
Yes,
Yeah.
very scary. So I just wanted you to check in. How y'all doing with this different kind of crazy week?
Yeah, good. I lost part of my roof, but besides that, that's about it. And that was no surprise. So very thankful that everything else is intact.
Yeah, I think just glad it's over. Thankful that nothing major happened at our house, and thinking about all those that are still struggling or don't have power and all of that. So there's a lot going on in
Did you
Florida.
guys lose power?
No.
Not at all.
No, thankfully.
None of you?
It flickered
No.
like twice, right?
Mhm.
But that's not very long. And it came right back on.
I actually thankfully lost power for over 24 hours because they're doing the rebate for people.
Oh.
Yeah, disaster relief. It's like $2,000.
Nice. Cha-ching.
Wow.
I know. Like $700 for the food and then another $1,200 or
Well,
$1,300.
that's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was worth it.
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
It was worth it.
Oh, it was worth it.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
worth
And now I'm kind of like bummed. Like, darn it.
But you know what? I've never gotten a rebate from
I've
having
never either.
power
No.
loss.
No.
I think this is the first
Is
time
this a
they're
new
doing
thing?
that. Yeah. They on the website they have Helene and some other storm in May too.
Oh,
So I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well,
I
good to
I'm-
know for next time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm thankful for that because, you know, honestly, these past few storms have been horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully in our little bubble area here, we didn't experience horrific. Like, I feel incredibly thankful that, you know, obviously the majority of us, we didn't even lose power, which we were fully expecting to.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, yeah.
like, when the
Yes.
power goes
Yep.
out, when the internet goes
Was
out,
fully
when
prepared.
you know, I was like, don't eat the pantry food. Like, you have to eat from the freezer because
Yep.
we're going to lose our food. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the mental mindset was like when all these things happen, because he was pretty scary out
Yeah.
there in the ocean.
Oh yeah.
So lots to be thankful for. But I am glad that some people are getting a little bit of compensation
Yeah.
for just the disaster
Mhm.
that
It's
these.
through FEMA. So yeah, that helps.
Thank you, FEMA.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
FEMA.
Yeah. So, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if you've been following us back in episode 7, we did just kind of a synopsis of our view on domestic violence. And we have wanted to kind of have a couple follow-up episodes as well that address this topic because we feel, you know, like we said in that episode, there's no topic off the couch. There's nothing, you know, that's off the table. Sorry, not off the couch, but
the
off
couch.
the table.
Or the couch.
That's off the table here. And, you know, as friends, we want you guys to know that we love you, we care for you. And if you're experiencing any sort of hardship, that you shouldn't have to keep silent about it, that you can reach out and know that there's help out there. So that's where my friend Jonelle comes in. I'm so excited to have you here today. I've known Jonelle for several years now and have followed her story. And she has an incredibly powerful story about domestic violence. And so we wanted to have her here today to share her story with you so that you guys could see what it's like to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has experienced. Maybe for you yourself, you might be like, maybe I'm the only one that's experiencing this and I don't know anybody else who's gone through what I'm going through right now. And so we hope that as you listen to Jonelle talk today and as we have a conversation that it will just be incredibly helpful for all of you guys. So I'm going to pass the conversation to Jonelle, but really just I think we just love to kind of hear your experience with domestic violence, wherever you want to start in your story for.
So yeah, it's been a journey. Crystal actually was a very helpful person at the time that I was going through the worst of it. But she was post-relationship.
Yeah.
So the relationship started when I was, I just graduated college. And I had 2 months left on my lease after college. And so I just needed to find a job until my dream, since I was a little girl from Saved by the Bell.
Hey, I love Saved by the Bell.
You know, Zach, I mean,
Oh,
come on.
yes. I
Come
had
on.
the Zach posters on my wall.
Yes. I wanted to be Kelly Kapowski.
Yes.
That was my dream.
Yes.
Since I was a little girl.
Well, actually, I was. No.
You were.
I know, I totally had the wave because of her. You know what I mean? The 80s wave. So I ended up having that dream for my whole life, is to move to California. I just dreamed of being Kelly Kapowski out in California. And I just love the weather. I love the environment. I love the people. I loved all of it. And I went there when I was 21 and just fell in love even more. And so I decided to go to college in Orlando in film school, because I loved editing. I loved, the film industry. I watched movies as a kid a lot. So I wanted to go to Full Sail. And I graduated. I loved it. I had the time of my life. And the time that it ended, it was in March of 2010. So my lease was until May. And so I just needed to find a job until I moved out. I had it all planned. I had the money saved up. I had everything. And so I went on Craigslist at that time. Remember Craigslist?
Yes.
A long time ago. That's how we used to find jobs back in the day. And I was looking for just something casual. I wasn't looking for, career or anything. So I saw this ad for a nanny. And he had his phone number on there. I called. And he was like, yeah, come over for an interview. So I came over. So I get to the door. It's a nice, big, beautiful house. And he opens the door, and he immediately had this look of and he was this older man. He was 20 years older than me. He was 44 at the time. And he told me later on that he already knew he was going to hire me right then. He told me during the interview that he had 40 people that were interested in the job. And he's like, but you're the one, right? So apparently I was going to be the daytime nanny, but he already had a nighttime nanny. He wasn't married. His previous relationship, I found out later, really had a lot of similarities. This is his type of behavior, but he got full custody of those two girls. And, my plan still was, I just want to go. This is a temporary thing. And he knew that. He knew. But after he would come home from work, he would just kind of ask me to stay for a little bit. And I would hang out with him in the back porch. And then I would go home. And I could tell, you can always tell, somebody likes you or whatever, but I wasn't interested. So one day he asked me to go to dinner with him. And I was like, no. He asked me again, maybe this is 2 weeks in already. And he asked me, and I was like, okay. And so we went out, our first date, and we went to a bar, and because I told him, I said, I'm not staying here, right? You're not trying to get a real relationship from this. I'm out. And he's like, no. If you just, stay a little bit longer, I go, but I have student loans, I can't, stay. He goes, no. I already talked to my mom about that. I'll pay all of your student loans. And I was like, really? He also told me, he goes, if you just stay a little bit longer, I can help you get a job. I could pay for everything for you. So 2 days later, he calls me in a panic, and he says, oh, my nighttime nanny just abandoned me. She's going to move to Ohio out of nowhere. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I believed this. It's so funny to talk about it now. And I go, oh, well, if you need me to, temporarily I can move in and be the nighttime nanny too. He goes, would you? Really? So that's how he got his claws into me from the very beginning. I found out 5 years later, 5 years, I didn't even know this. He kicked her out.
Oh.
She didn't even do that.
So
So
he knew exactly what he was doing.
yeah, he did. He really did. He knew. He plotted the whole thing under my nose. I think he also chose someone like me because of my age. You know, I was so much younger.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Not a lot of life experience. And
None.
Yeah.
I had none as far as like abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Which actually, when it came down to my lease ending, he's like, let's just move all your stuff in my house. And then can you just stay over the summer? I just really need someone to watch the kids over the summer, and then you can go. So, okay, yeah, that works. And he goes, I'll pay you, you know. Second I moved in, he's like, I'm not paying you. You're my girlfriend. Why would I pay you to watch my children? Well, okay. So then I get an internship, and the whole time he's so negative. It was an internship at a news station, and it was a great opportunity for me to get some experience. And he, the whole time, made it seem like that was a stupid thing for me to do. Like, you're not getting paid for this. Like, why would you even want to do this? Like, why don't you just come home and watch kids? Like, what's the difference? And I'm like, because I want to be here. But it ended up, he got into my head so much about it that I just quit that internship. And then I got a job at ESPN, Wide World of Sports, editing. He made a big deal about that. He didn't like that. He didn't like me being independent at all whatsoever. So July of that year, so this is only 3 months into the relationship, he takes me down to the Keys and proposes to me. The big giant ring. Like, what a romantic story. My happy ending. I'm so happy. And when we got back, we went to go pick up his kids from the mother, who he wouldn't allow her to watch them usually, but in this case he did, because, you know, he wanted someone to take free childcare. And this woman, she was also bitter. They were in a relationship for 14 years, never got married, and he never proposed and treated her like he didn't want her. And so when we came back with the ring, she was actually very upset. So I was even more like, so I am special.
Yeah.
He did everything right to get me to believe all this. And so after that was the first incident of domestic violence. I had no idea, like, to the extent of who he was, because he had a severe drug addiction, which, you know, I didn't know. I still didn't know for like a long time after that. And he would get so high that he actually, I've heard of other people having this, but cocaine psychosis, where he would get to the point, it's not normal, like not normal the way he would act on cocaine, but he would get very violent. His eyes would turn weird, like it would be like almost like demonic is what it looked like to me. Like it would just glaze over. And so one of the first incidents, the first one was, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. We were all drinking, and then apparently at some point he was doing cocaine, and I didn't know. And I found out about it, and we were hanging out with another couple, and they went to sleep, and he started, when I found out about it, he started getting violent, like just angry at me. And we were like arguing, and then he decided to grab my arm. He pushed me down upstairs, and then he grabbed my arm and dragged me down the stairs. So it doesn't even seem like that it's that big of a deal. But he opened the door and he put me on the mat and locked the door.
I would say that's a big deal. Though.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
But see, it's not like being punched in the face. That's a clear sign of like you're an abuser. I need to leave. But because it started off this light, it felt like it was putting me in a place of like, you're a dog. You belong outside.
Well, it's testing you to see how will she react to this small little, so-called small little thing.
I don't even know if it's that much that he thought that way through. It's more like behavior modification. It's like, know your position. You don't argue with me. I'll do what I want. I'm going to do cocaine when I feel like it. When we get married, you don't get a say. You don't get a say on what I do. So here's your training now. You're going to understand anytime that you say something about this to me, you're going to go out.
You know what to expect.
You don't belong in here until you can get calm down, you know, because I hate when people say calm down.
No, I do too.
It makes me so mad.
Nobody ever calmed down by being told to calm down.
It just makes you madder, right? It's exactly true.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting there just crying, and then he like opened up the door and he goes, "Oh my God, really?" Like act so dramatic. I just closed the door for 5 minutes. I'm like, it gets in your head like that because that's that gaslighting. It's like, you're crazy for thinking this is bad. Yeah, like this is normal. Like you were behaving badly, so you deserve this. It's not my fault that you're crying. Get over it. So I did. You know, I'm like, maybe he's right. I'm just being dramatic. But I do remember I left him for the first time, went to my family's house when they weren't there. And he convinced me like to come back because it was always a threat, you know, to leave. It was always that back of my head of like, from this moment on, when I left, he begged me not to, please, called me. He sent flowers to me. And then he finally called me and said, or texted me, "Tell my girls I love them." Because he wants to let me know because I left him, he's going to kill himself. And me and my bleeding heart, like I got to.
So manipulative.
It's so manipulative because he never planned on doing that. He's never going to kill himself. He's not going to do it. I know he wouldn't now, but at that time I'm like, no, those girls will have no father and their mother can't take care of them. What are they going to do? I can't take care of them. I got to go back. I got to save this. You know, I got to protect him too. I'm protective of him. So I went back and then we went to the beach. He was doing coke. He must have brought it there. We were all having a great time. We had another family there with us. The kids were having a great time. We were drinking at this motel, and we went to sleep, and I could see in his pocket there was a cigarette pack with cocaine in it, and I was like, "What is going on?" And I made a big deal about it. And he immediately got up and just started like shoving me and like screaming at me and just calling me names, you know, curse words and things like that. And then he eventually shoved me outside again. So kind of a little flashback of the being shoved out the door the first time. This was again kind of a repeated behavior modification of, everyone else is here in this hotel room is good. You do not belong because you corrected me about doing cocaine. I couldn't mention anything. It made me so terrified to speak. So, and that was the point. You know, it was, you stay in your place, you stay in your lane, and anytime you speak something that I don't like, you're going to get punished. So continue to do what you want, but you're going to have consequences. So it trained me pretty well, but at that moment, he shoved me out of the motel room, and I didn't know what else to do. So I went into his truck. I was terrified. I was trying to hide because I knew he was going to come for me, because he wanted me to sit right there in front of the thing so I could be quiet. But I wanted to hide because I was scared. And so I kept peeking up, and I saw him. I saw him wandering around, and I was so scared. So I hid down underneath, and the door flew open, and he just, what are you doing in here? And he's like, give me that ring. And I'm like, my ring? And he wanted the ring. And he put it on his pinky, and it didn't even go all the way around. And so I remember him like trying to scream at me with the pinky, with the ring on it. I'm like, get out of here, and then he pulled me out of the car. And I'm like, what do you want from me? I don't know what you want. Do you want, you kicked me out, so I don't know what to do. So then I remember I went to the motel right across the street, and I was just sitting there like, I didn't know what to do in the dark. Like, and he just made fun of me. Like, look at you. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. Do you want me to go inside? I'll go inside. And he's like, no, you can't go in there. Then he'd be like, come on, come in, get in here. And he'd just like grab my arm and bring me back inside. Then at this point, he had made so much noise that everyone woke up. Now his middle daughter at the time was 14 or 15, and she was trying to help me because she's dealt with this from her father her whole life. And so she brought me into the bathroom, and she was like trying to think of ways to get him to calm down. And he bust open the door somehow. So this went on for hours, and just in and out, shoving me out, bringing me in. And now everyone's involved. There was like 2 other adults there, and then there were 2 smaller kids, and then his 15-year-old daughter. And nobody knew how to calm him down. So I remember his daughter screaming at him, why are you doing this again?
So she's definitely seen it before.
She saw it happen to her mom, for years. And she's like, you're ruining this. She's good for us. And he just couldn't, there was nothing there. There was no talking to him. So she ended up calling. She called the police, and they did arrest him. And it was so weird. Every time the police would get there, it's like he would snap out of it. Like
a switch.
You're capable of this the whole time. Yeah. You're just acting like this. This is an act. You're just doing this. How can you put it on for the cops, but you can't calm down when the entire room is telling you to please stop. Stop abusing her.
Yeah.
But he would be like, I don't know what she's talking about. I didn't do anything. I didn't touch her. And they said to him, well, you grabbing her arm and pushing her is domestic violence. And you refusing to let her go anywhere when she's trying to leave, that's also domestic violence.
Yeah, restraining.
Yeah, false imprisonment, and there's so many other things beyond that from that night. So he, of course, blamed me. And I go, I didn't even call. He goes, but you need to get me out of jail. This is your fault that I'm in jail. And I remember at that time believing him. So I did everything, jumped through hoops and lied to the victim's advocate through the state attorney's office. They gave him, what do they call it? Like a temporary restraining order or whatever.
An injunction.
Kind of but it wasn't that.
Like a no contact order?
Yes,
yeah.
That's what it was. It was like he wasn't allowed to be within a certain area of me. Yeah. And he didn't care about that. That was just a rule to him.
That he didn't have to follow.
He didn't have to follow because that's just not
suggestion of the court.
So he got away with it eventually. So the DCF, of course, they got involved, and I still remember to this day, she was looking around the house. He wasn't supposed to be there, so he had to leave. So she's looking around the house, and she goes, this house is familiar. I've been here before. Should have took that as a warning. But at this point, I did find out I was pregnant after that.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm really locked in. So everything got taken care of with the domestic violence. He promised me, oh, I'll never do that again. I'll never. Of course you won't. Of course you won't. So we got this baby on the way, and he decides to go sober with me. You know, I can't drink. He's like, I'm not going to drink either. I'm like, great, that's so wonderful. Everything's working out.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of was bad though, because now he's in his right mind. He's got a lot of time to manipulate and premeditate this baby on the way. It's a long game, right? And I remember one of my first mistakes, I had a car I loved. I bought it myself, and it was 2003 Mitsubishi Eclipse. And I had 11 miles on it when I bought it, and it took me 5 years to pay it off. Loved that car. Loved it. But he told me, he said, you need to sell that car because it's not a car for kids. Makes logical sense. So I said, okay, you're right. I should. And he goes, but I'll help you buy a new car. And I said, oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, it's great. So we sold the car for super cheap. He wanted it sold quick, like real quick. And when the car was taking off, I'll never forget this. He walked in through the door and he clapped his hands and said, now you can't go anywhere. Ha ha. You have no car. And I was like, what? He goes, I'm just kidding. Of course. I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
He was not kidding.
No.
He was not kidding.
Wow.
So he did buy me a car. He used my money for the down payment, and he bought his dad's truck, which is not that much better. Because
Is that any better for a baby?
Yeah, exactly. It had 2 doors, but it wasn't one of those like extended cab ones.
Yeah,
So it was going to be difficult to get a baby in the car anyway. So it was basically the same thing as my car, but he put it in his name. So he's like, you will not take this car. And if you try to leave with this car, I will report it stolen because it's not in your name. It's not yours. I didn't get any of that money back. You didn't, like, that $2,000 that we sold the car for, you used for that deposit. This is yours.
Yeah.
This is yours. So, and I did try to leave, and he did tell me, nope, you can't take that car. You're going to have figure something else out, or you just stay here. My mom would come and get me. And so, he stayed sober until 3 days before I had my first child. I was 9 months pregnant. I was just about to, I had it planned for the induction. And he owned a plumbing company, so he had a worker that was younger, was like a helper, and he was turning 21. So he's like, I'm going to go out with him for his 21st birthday. And he was out so late he wouldn't answer his phone. 9 months pregnant, I go looking for him. And I find him over at his ex's house, at her apartment. He was coked up out of his mind, and he just came home. And he's like, don't make a big deal about this. So what? It's just one time. And I'm like, I am going to get birth in 3 days. And you're going to do this. You're going to make me go out in the middle of the night, go find you.
Yeah.
Like, really? So I had to get over it because I'm about to have a baby. Like, what else am I going to do? I'm really going to leave him right now. He made me quit my job because he's like, this is, you need to stay home with the baby, Yeah, he didn't pay for the loans, and then he had no options for me because he didn't want me to work. I was trapped. I was just trapped.
Yeah.
On all angles, because now I have this guilt with my mom because she believed in me to put me through college. And now she's upset with me and doesn't like him. He ruined that, relationship with her as a mother-in-law. But we decided to put off the wedding anyway until after the baby was born. And so I had the baby, everything was great. And 2 weeks after she's just a newborn, he wants to party again. He wants to go back to that lifestyle all over again. And so I went along with it. You know, I started drinking heavily because I was very depressed. I was just trapped. I didn't know what else to do. I had a newborn baby that I loved. I always wanted to be a mom. And I felt like I got robbed. So when I see babies still, like, it hurts because I missed that time and I had so much guilt and emotions from it, because it's like he would tell me all the time, this is your choice. You choose to drink. You choose to do this. And with cocaine, it got to the point where it was like I had a choice with that. You know, it was either do it with him or don't do it with him. And he had the part of the cocaine psychosis. He was obsessed with searching. I don't know what that was. It was the craziest thing. Like, if I had a purse, I always had to hide my purse. He would go through every single thing that was in my purse, everything, receipts, and he would pull it out, and he would barely get the words out, like, what's this? What is this? It's a phone number. And I'm like, it's a receipt from my it's clearly a Publix receipt from when I was shopping today, remember? And he'd be like, no, you're cheating on me. Always thought I was cheating. And I'm like, when do I have time to cheat? Yeah. I got a newborn baby. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I couldn't leave, like, any kind of jewelry out or anything like that, because he would tear it apart. Like, he would go through my jewelry boxes and be like, what is this? What is this? Who gave you this? You're cheating on me. So I would just hide everything constantly. And so when I would find out if he was doing cocaine, I would hide my purse. So I didn't have to deal with that. But he would just go through other things. So then if he couldn't find anything, or often he would search me as well. Like, he would, like, go into my clothes, into my bra, think that I'm hiding something in there. And I'm like,
highly paranoid.
Yes, it's terrifying, because no matter what you say to this person, you are terrified that if you object to it, it's going to get worse, because that's what would happen. Like, he would then punch and hit, because that's where we got to that level at that point, is he got so violent. Because at this point, I have the baby. He's got it all locked down. He feels secure enough to be able to accelerate the abuse to another level.
So up to that point, did you ever think to yourself that he was abusive to you? Or did you just rationalize it all up until that point?
Yeah, many of my family, my brother came to live with me early on. And he saw a giant bruise on my arm. I'll never forget. And he was living with us, and he yelled at me. He was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, that is the size of Texas. Yeah, I still remember him saying that. And I go, it's whatever, who cares? And he's like, no, I'm leaving. And he packed up all of his stuff. I was shocked. I'm like, what's wrong with him? I thought he had the problem. Like, you're messed up, because this is an abuse. Like, I had no idea. I didn't have any idea. And I thought that he was just protecting me, I guess, in some way. I did rationalize it, like you were asking. Yes, I rationalized it, because he would also feed me the things to believe of, like, no, this is normal. Like, I'm just trying to help you understand, you know. He was older than me, so he's wiser, and I'm just stupid because I don't understand. Right. And I gave up all of my dreams for him, and he never thanked me. He just expected this of me. Like, this was expected. I didn't go to California. I didn't get to do all the things, which I'm glad, you know, to be honest, because I have 2 children, but it just got worse. So I would either choose not to do it, and then he would get violent too. And if like he's searching me and he thinks he found something, there was hitting, punching, like all kinds of stuff. But if I chose to do it with him, it's a catch-22. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes made bold choices. But if I chose to do cocaine with him, then it was abuse that could last anywhere between 8 to 10 hours. Mm. Yeah.
Wow.
It was intense. It was like torture.
Yeah.
It was torture. And it didn't matter if I cried. That didn't make him feel bad. Like it would just make it continue. Mm-hmm. So I just learned to like be okay with it. Mm-hmm. Just deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why sometimes I would rather choose to get hit instead of that, because there was just so many other aspects of it, which also distorted me. Still to this day, I have issues because it's what it does is it like sexual abuse, one rape doesn't do this, but continuous years of this kind of sexual manifestations in your head warps you, like in not the ways that people would think. You know, it's a confusing thing, sexuality in general, because you don't understand why you now have these kinks, I guess you could call them, or like you don't understand why abuse is now a thing for you that is actually turns you on. It's the strangest thing. It's the strangest thing. And to even fantasize about things that aren't normal, you know, it's just not normal. But I have to give myself grace sometimes and be like, it's okay, you know. And it's also, there's different things too of like, after we broke up, I stayed single for 5 years because the thought of somebody touching me was like
so
cringy.
hard. I'm sure.
Yeah, like I couldn't even like get myself to have a thought about it because it was so far beyond. But then when I was over that part, then it was like a hypersexuality, and it was unnerving as well. So it was almost like, but I wouldn't search for it because I was so afraid. That's where I was at. I was like a constant battle in my head of like, I don't want to be with somebody, but I have all these crazy urges. I don't understand it. It's confusing and scary at the same time.
Yeah.
So then over the years, it got worse. It just got worse and worse. The second time he was arrested, the night before, he raped me in like one of the worst ways, and I was terrified. So the next day I was angry with him, and I remember like I was laying next to him because like there was no option just like not laying next to him because then it's just gonna make things worse. But when he was sober, like getting over the high or whatever, he woke up and just like casual, acting normal. And I was cold to him, and I'm like, get off of me. You know, as quietly, as nice. He said, what's wrong? And I go, you raped me last night. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I won't do that again. I know what you mean. That was really bad. And I'm like, So I just dealt with it because there's nothing else I could do. Yeah. And he apologized. So, I mean, what else you want from me? I apologize to you. So that night, he wants to party again. He wants to do coke. And I'm like, no way. No way. I'm not doing this with you. You are not doing it in this house. You need to leave. My daughter was not even a year old.
Wow.
Not even a year old. And he's like, I'm going to do it. You can either do it with me or you don't. But I'm doing it. And I'm like, fine, you stay downstairs then. I'm going upstairs with the baby. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. And he said, fine. Yeah. 10 minutes later, comes up and he's doing like this on my legs, like rubbing my legs. And I'll never forget how terrifying this was, but it was a knee-jerk reaction after just being raped the night before of kicking him off of me with my leg. Yeah. And he fell into the TV wardrobe thing, and he got up, and I was beyond scared. And he just started wailing at me, like just, and I like begged him to stop, and he stopped. And then I went downstairs with the baby, and I said, you need to leave. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. And you're being dramatic. And I'm like, I'm going to call the cops if you don't leave. And he goes, fine, call them. So I called. And when they came, he got all freaked out and was panicking. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm so sorry. Just tell them that I didn't do anything. Tell them it was a mistake. And he could somehow go from like being coked up and out of control to panic and logical thinking. So no, I'm not going to do any of that. And so the police take him outside, and they take me outside, and he's death staring me. It's in the report. Like he was doing an intimidating stare, which is domestic violence too, apparently. That's when they arrested him, because the reason why he was freaking out, like he was about to run over because he saw the cop talking to me, and he thought he was hitting on me. Can you believe that?
Oh my
It never ends. Like it never ends. So because I was wearing shorts, and he did like this on the with the flashlight to look at my legs. The police officer can't look at my legs. And then he noticed on my, like, right towards where, like, the private area, there were bruises from the night before. So those were very apparent, because then the ones that he did that night didn't show up at that time.
Right.
But he looked at them, and I'll never forget him saying, what are those bruises? I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, that looks like, because they were ones that were like this, holding, restraining somebody. And I was like, I didn't want to get him in trouble for that. Stupid. And he was thankful. He actually told me, he goes, you know what kind of trouble I'd be in if you would have told them that? And I go, I know. But he put it in the report that she had bruises consistent with it. I still didn't get it. I still didn't get it.
And they didn't do anything.
They arrested him for domestic violence. Okay. And they put a monitor on him so that he couldn't come back to the house. Okay. He was so mad, but it was so wonderful for me. Yeah. It was like freedom. Yes, I had to take the kids to school, but I had to do that anyway. And the kids stayed with me at the house, and he stayed with someone else. But he would make me go over to where he was on the monitor. And we at the time were looking for a new place to live, so he made me go with him to look for houses. And he happened to go within the area that the monitor was going on. And I'm in the car with him. He's not allowed to be around me. And he starts freaking out. And like it's going off. He's supposed to call the probation person or whatever. And he's like, what do I do with you? I need to drop you off somewhere. So he just dropped me off with the kids
on the side of the road.
with the baby, like somewhere. I think it was like a gas station, and he's like, get a ride home.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they arrested him again for violation of the bond conditions.
Right.
So now he's got another charge. This is your fault. course it's my phone. So, of course, I took that blame for that. And he's like, you need to get me out of this. You need to go down to the victim's advocate and tell him it was all a big mistake. I did that. I did that. Shamefully so, I did it again. Then we moved into another house. I found out I was pregnant with my son. Things just got so much worse. This time he was like extremely violent and extremely scary. He got arrested 2 more times after that. The other time, it's actually because he wouldn't give me my phone because I wanted to leave. And he kept going through my phone. And he called people too on my phone while he was high and left messages. People played them for me. I'm like, and I remember one of the recordings was like, you hit me 3 times. You hit me 3 times. Give me my phone. It's like literal evidence. And I still never played that for the judge or anything like that because I wanted him to get out of trouble. Always. Never have to pay consequence for anything he does. So, yeah, he got arrested. I moved out. And that time I left him for 6 months. On the 3rd arrest, I left him for 6 months. And I lived in Ocala. And he was doing so much cocaine while I was gone that it was a danger to the other kid that was there. He told me later on that he was actually taking her on drug deals with him in the middle of the night. She was only like 8 years old. And he sleeping in the bed next to him, and he's doing crack, like smoking crack in the bed next to him. But his sisters blamed me. Like, you just come and visit him and know that he's doing cocaine. Because one time, his daughter, when I would leave, I would call someone to come pick her up, and he would get her back because the mom knew this was going on. Just leave her there. So I called her mom, and she's on her way. And then they called me. You leave them in that situation. What a horrible, horrible person. And they convinced him to get a lawyer so that he could get custody. Because he's a better parent because he's the one doing drugs in front of him, but I'm the bad one because I left her in that situation. So it's so confusing. And I was angry with her. And that's the kind of nonsense that I had to deal with. So he was doing so much that he was losing his mind. Nobody could even contact him for like 3 weeks. He was just constantly on drugs. Eventually, his sisters came over and did an intervention. But they all did coke together on that intervention. The whole intervention was to get him to sober up enough to go get a lawyer. So that's what he did. In December of 2013 is when this all started, the legal stuff. He got a lawyer, and he filed a motion, and that scared me. So I went back to him.
What motion did he file?
He filed for paternity. It was just the beginning.
Okay.
So he just was basically starting the process. But he told me, he's like, I'm going to win. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way you're going to win. Right. You're a felon, and I have no criminal history. Go on. And you do drugs constantly. There's so much evidence of that. And you've been arrested 3 times for domestic violence. No way. But still, there were so many threats. And I have a recording of one time in that year before I left of him telling me everything that would happen to me if I left. If you take anything from here, anything, I will hire the best attorney. And I have money put away that you don't have. And he said, I will spite you just to spite you. And I'm like, just because I'm taking my things and you will not leave. You will not leave. So I did anyway during that time, and that played in my mind. It played in my mind, but I'm like, it can't be right. So after the 4th arrest, this time it was so bad, it was bruises all down my back. And my daughter's old enough to witness it at that point. She was 4.
Oh, my gosh.
And I made him leave, but at first, my daughter was getting involved. And my son thought we were playing. He was laughing, and I'll never forget Gabby turning, they're not playing. They're not wrestling. And that's a sad thing because, like, I had my back and he's, like, punching my back. And my daughter got this, like, bravery in her somehow to, like, say something to him. Like, you stop that. So I'm, like, curled up in a ball on the floor. And she's trying to console me, a 4-year-old consoling her mom. That's so sad.
Yeah.
But she turns to her dad, starts screaming, "You get out." She was so cute. "You get out." And I'm holding her back because he's dangerous. And I'll never forget him being in the kitchen. And he went into the sink and he pulled a knife out and showed it to her and to me. And I backed up. You know, I'm like, I don't know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
It's possible that we could just get right now. So I put her in the room and I said, "You get out. You get out." And I made him get out. He stayed gone for 24 hours, came back higher than he was. And then he calls the police on me. He calls the police on me. It says that I hit him because I tried to take his cocaine from him and throw it, and he busted my lip. I think that was the time he busted my lip. The night before, he did the bruises on the back. So luckily those showed up. When the cops came, I'm like, actually, no, it's the other way around. See this? And they arrested him. And that's the first time I saw the domestic violence wheel. And I never knew I was in an abusive. Yeah. So they actually were taking it so serious this time because this was the 4th time. And they said the other 3 times you came over and said it's just a fight. So even if you don't press charges, we're pressing charges. So they were taking it to the next level. And they said, if the DCF gets called out here one more time, you're losing the kids. So that was enough to wake me up. I said to him, I'm like, this happens again, I'm leaving. And let's just make a pact. He goes, I promise you it won't happen again. I agree with you. I lied again, even in court, on the stand this time, on record. Are you afraid of this man? No. Did he hit you? No. Yeah, so lied. When Easter of 2016, this is 6 years into the relationship, 2 kids, 4 arrests for domestic violence, he did it again. He hit me in front of the kids, and he wouldn't let me close the door. I couldn't lock the door, couldn't close the door. He just harassed me. I recorded the whole thing, and it doesn't even have a good look to it because I'm a part of this. Like, it just, none of this is helpful. It was just like, I'm leaving. He goes, you leave, but you're not taking the kids. I'm like, I'm not leaving them with you.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving them with you.
Yeah.
And it was Easter morning, March 27th, 2016. I waited the night out, and I was going to go to my family's anyway, but he was supposed to come with me, but he was too high. And that was his whole point. He wanted me to do it with him so that we both don't go. I'm like, I'm going. My family's for Easter. That was a traumatic scene because it was like the kids are screaming and terrified. I'm trying to get in the truck and pulling me out, and the kids are screaming in the back. And I am trying my best just to get in the car, and he won't let us in. So I decided to call his sister, and that's what scared him. Was when she showed up, he ran inside. So now I could leave. But I'll never forget the door. My daughter's door next to her, it made that sound that it's open. And so I pulled over right down the street, and I'm like, Gabby, open your door. She starts wailing, Mom, please don't make me go. Please don't make me go back there. I'm like, no, I'm not. I just close your door. And she's like, I can't. So I just had to get out and like open the door and close it for her. And so I went back to Ocala, and, I told them, I'm like, I'm leaving him, for real this time. My mom believed me, but everyone else was like, she's just going to go back. Because it tore my family apart. They didn't talk to me for years during that because they just hated me because I made the stupid choices. So I had so many levels of hatred in all areas. I just felt no love from anybody ever. Like it was, my family hated me, yelled at me all the time for being stupid, and him treating me like this. But I chose to be with him more because that was harder. It was harder to have your family hate you because of this. There was just no way around it. I was trapped every single way. And the threat was still there. He's going to get these kids. If I lose my kids, I have nothing.
Right.
I have nothing.
Right.
Nothing left. But at this point, it just was so bad. I'm like, I'll take the consequences and hope for the best. But I was wrong. I was wrong. His threats were true because she knows that she met me a year after that. He did hire the best attorney. I went down to the courthouse. I filed for an injunction, and I got this Judge Godin, and he didn't give me a temporary injunction, but that same day, but like an hour later, his attorney wrote a motion for custody saying that I absconded with the children in 2013, meaning I kidnapped my children, and he had no idea where we were. So, and I was attempting to do that again. So he got sole custody in 2016, sole custody. But the day I didn't even know it was happening, I was in Orlando. He had a police officer call me, and he says, "You have his laptop. You need to come bring it back." And I said, "Okay, I'll come bring it back tomorrow." And my mom had a suspicion, like, something's not right.
Yeah.
I think we should wait, and you go by yourself. Wait with the kids at McDonald's or something. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I get there. There's 4 cops in the yard. And I go in the house. I bring the laptop in, and I come back out. And then Chris goes, "Nope, don't you go anywhere. No, you can't go anywhere." And then I'm like, "What is going on?" And then they hand me this document that I still, to this day, like, can't read it. I can't, because it was so horrible. Just the words, sole, all custody and control to him. It was so, I fell to the floor in the yard, like the ground, and I was dry heaving because it was such a shock that he actually did it. He did it. It wasn't just a threat. It was real. Yeah. It was, and he told me, he's like, "I have power because I have money and you have nothing. No one's going to believe you."
Was this unilaterally done or without any kind of hearing or anything?
Yeah, it was an ex parte.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it meant that he took this to the judge without my knowledge, because if I could have interviewed, which they already had the documentation of my truthful accusations of even a DCF report saying that we had to leave because it wasn't safe, because they came out again and they said it's going to go into non-judicial, meaning one step away from losing the kids to the courts, the foster care system.
Wow.
And they said, if you don't leave here, they will be taken. You have to leave.
Meaning if you don't leave him?
Yeah, they can't be in this house with him.
Yeah.
You can't be around him, because domestic violence is child abuse, apparently. Them witnessing, which I didn't know that either, because I was like, I'm taking the punishment.
Yeah.
So how is that hurting the kids? But it is serious, because they say, like, if you were to witness someone you love getting hurt, it's worse, actually, than you getting hurt yourself. And so that's why I didn't see it, is because I was on the better side of it. Those kids witnessing domestic violence, watching their mom get hit like that over and over, is child abuse, because it's the worst kind of situation. It's so scary for the kids. It's terrifying, because they love their mom and they also love their father, even if he is a horrible person. They don't know that. They don't get that.
Yeah, it's just their dad.
Yeah, it's their dad. So he ended up he got custody, and the whole thing was he wanted me to come back. He wanted this to all blow over. So I couldn't. The document also said I had to stay within 50 miles. I couldn't leave. I couldn't even go back to Ocala. So I'm like, where do I go? There's nowhere to go. And I called the shelter for abused women. They wouldn't take me because I was a threat to the other people.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, isn't this a shelter for abused women? This is exactly what. Well, he's not in jail, so he could find you. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And they would not do anything. So it took the police officer calling that shelter again and being like, you have to take her. And they're like, fine.
Wow.
It ended up being a really good place for me at the time. But of course, it's horrible. That first night is like, I was on the floor just crying. And he called me and he's like, just come home. It's okay. You don't need to be in that place. You don't need to be there. It's not for you. You're not abused. And I'm like, he's like, at least do this. Come over for Buddy's birthday. His birthday was like, this is just days away from his birthday. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. And the next day I woke up, I'm like, I'm not going back there. I'm not going to go to a birthday party with his whole family, because he told me, you're going to have to apologize to my family, though, for this whole mess. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I have some level of pride, you know.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. They all told me, you need to leave him. And that's when his daughter, she was like 20-something. She moved out right away, as soon as she could. She's like, you need to leave him, because I don't want for my brother and sister what I went through.
Yeah.
And that was the first time she ever told me. I watched my father throw my mom to the ground and kick her in the face repeatedly. I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for my brother and sister.
Oh my gosh.
She supported me. His sister, the one who intervened all those other times, she was like, I will make sure that you are safe. Just leave. Just go. You cannot be with him. They all flipped within a day. It didn't even take a day. And I was talking to the daughter, and I said, but you told me to leave. You told me you would support me. But I didn't know you were going to leave forever. Those kids are where they need to be. They're safe, away from you. I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. Like, it's like a real living nightmare. Yeah. It's like everything I thought was going to happen, it would the opposite. Yeah. You know, the worst case scenario actually happened. So when I told him I'm not going back, I'm staying here, it turned vicious. He then, on his birthday, on my son's actual birthday, wouldn't even let me talk to him. I'm like, I just want to wish my son a happy birthday. And he's like, nope. He wanted to punish me. Yeah. So 10 days of no kids.
That's torture.
It was torture. That was, out of everything he ever did to me, all of the abuse, all of it, there was nothing like that. Nothing. It was like somebody ripped out my heart. Like, that was the hardest thing I've ever in my life gone through. And when we went to court, the judge was like, you need to figure it out on your own. That's not my problem. He didn't give me any custody at all. He's like, the lawyers figure it out. And of course he wouldn't agree to anything. He wouldn't let me have a visit. He wouldn't let me have a phone call. So 10 days goes by. Finally, my lawyer got him to let me have them for the weekend. So I go and I pick them up, and it was like just so overwhelmingly happy. Like, it was such a good moment. And going forward, he gave me every weekend. And so he didn't like that. And then we went to go to court for the injunction. Denied by Judge
The injunction that you had filed against him?
the same day that he filed his.
Right. Okay.
Because you lied in court. You said on the stand earlier this year that you weren't afraid of him. So I don't know if you're lying now or if you're lying then. But because you lied, you have no credibility. Denied. So I could never say anything about abuse again.
Wow.
Was never allowed to. Never.
Right.
So now I'm stuck because he's got this fancy lawyer who was actually found out was roommates with the judge in college. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's total corruption. And then, so I was still in the abuse shelter. One day I get a call on my daughter's birthday from the shelter. And they said, well, there's been a breach in security. For the last few days of this week, somebody has been coming up to the gates of the shelter, which is an undisclosed location for a good reason. Somebody was actually killed at that same one right at that time. This was a big deal to not show where we were. But somehow I was getting something on my phone that looked like somebody was following me. Somehow he tracked me. So they kept trying to find out who it was by going to the gates. And they have the pictures of all the abusers from each person that's there. But they kept trying to go to the gates. But second they would run out to see him because he would cover his face for the camera. But they trying to see him, he would drive off. And he was in a different car, too. He used like a different car. So they said on that night, they actually got a positive ID on him because they got out there just in time and saw his face. And they said, unfortunately, you can't stay here anymore. The other one was full, so I couldn't go to the one in Orange County. So I had to go back to Ocala. The courts, I guess, let me. So I was just traveling back and forth constantly. My family got me a car, but it wasn't a very reliable one. I just needed to get back and forth to see my kids. But I would take any little molecule of time with them.
Yeah.
Like they gave me Wednesday afternoons for a little while. And even though I had to drive an hour and a half there to spend like 3 hours after school, and then another hour and a half back, I did it. So I was doing that for a while, and then I didn't want to see him, so we were doing the exchanges through his sister, and then one day she just acted out right in front of the kids, was holding my son and denying me when it was my day. So I started to do the exchanges with him, and he started being nice to me. He saw me for the first time, and he did that same look again, like, because I lost a lot of weight because I didn't ever eat. I couldn't eat at that time. And he called me on my way back, and he goes, "You look really good. I just want to tell you, you look really good. You lost a lot of weight." Thank you. Trying to be nice back. And then he called me 17 times within like the few days because he just wanted to talk to me. And he goes, "I know you probably should move on, but can you not move on yet?" Like, I'm not trying to, but just, it's none of your business anyway. He goes, I know. But he goes, "Look, I'm going to write it up where me and you get half and half custody." And I was like, "Yeah, great, cool." I go, "How do I know I could trust you though?"
Yeah.
And he goes, it's no problem. I just contact my lawyer and he'll write it up. He'll do what I tell him to do. So, "Oh, perfect. Let's do that. 50-50.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I'll give you $900 a month temporarily and you can move. I'll find you an apartment close by." I'm like, "Perfect. Let's do it." The next day he calls me, total attitude change. He goes, "I talked to my lawyer. He says, I don't need to be worrying about you. I need to worry about myself. And I'm not doing any of that stuff. Let's go to court." watch me, see you in court, threaten me. I'm like, where did this come from? We were friends a second ago. What happened?
Yeah.
Well, it was also manipulation from the attorney, because guess what? The attorney doesn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of him by writing that up. He wants the bad. He wants to destroy this family, or it doesn't matter. He doesn't want that. He doesn't care is what the problem is he wants the money. He wants the boat. He wants to put his kids through college on Chris's money. And guess what? Chris paid it. He paid it. Every stupid dime that he could to destroy me, just like the threat he said.
Yeah.
I have money put away that you don't even know about. I will hire the best attorney. This is what he said, word for word, to present what I need to present to ruin you. It's exactly what he did. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it was possible, but he did it. He did it. And I replayed that video over and over and over. So I'm like, I wouldn't take it back though. I couldn't deal with that for not one more day. With as much crap I was going through, I knew I had to believe that there was hope. I had to believe that someday I was going to get those kids back.
I was sitting there when, I don't know what part you were at, and I was thinking to myself, why does the guy who beat her up get to sit there and tell her what he's going to do and how this is going to happen?
Yeah. The things that are set in the system to protect women are actually used against women. And all it takes is a little Google search to find out how to use the system to manipulate.
And it's the lawyers. That's what I found out.
Yes.
It's the lawyers.
Yes.
The lawyers know each other. They
Yes.
talk outside. The judges and lawyers talk. But people don't believe this. That's the other problem is not America. Not here. You're crazy. You must, I don't know how many times I heard that. You must have done something wrong. Are you on drugs or something? Like, there's no way a judge takes away kids from a mom. Did you hear that one too?
No, but I mean, that's in line with the crazy stuff that.
So nobody believed me on
Has
top of it.
yeah.
It was like the worst things were happening to me that were real, but I was made to look like a liar. So it didn't matter what I said.
Yeah. I think, family members, friends who are viewing your situation from the outside and making judgments, right? Domestic violence is so much more complex than anybody can really understand. As I was listening to your story, I can totally understand why you made the choices that you did. Now, if I didn't know your story and I was looking from the outside into it, I would be like, this is crazy. Why aren't you leaving?
Why
this? Why
I've
not?
heard
And
that
I would
so many
have like a
times.
judgmental view because of course, like you,
Me too.
obviously it's abuse. Like you're hurting. Like this has happened so many times.
Why are you so stupid?
But so to see that that's the response you got from the people that should have taken the time to really
help me.
To help you and to examine a little bit more closely, like what's
Believe me.
actually,
That's the only thing I ever wanted was to be believed. Like that was just the simplest thing you can do as a person. If you're watching, and you know somebody that's going through that, just let them talk, believe them. Let me share without judgment. That was the problem is anytime I even complained about it, people just would fall away from me. Like, you're the one who's staying in it. I'm not going to help you. If you stay with him, we're not friends anymore. I lost all my friends at the time. I lost everyone. Nobody wanted anything to do with me because you made your choice. And I even had an attorney, like my third attorney, which we'll get into. But he even told me at some point the victim becomes the volunteer. And he goes,
Wow.
Counselor will tell you that. I'm like, you are so far away from the truth. You don't even understand. He goes, I read your documents. You're the problem. You didn't have one child. You had 2 children with him. So you chose. You're the volunteer. You're just as bad as in the court's eyes. And I'm like, it was like one right after another. Every single voice back to me was telling me I'm at fault. The courts, the judge, my ex, their father, my mom, my sister even told my mom, don't believe her, she's just gonna go back. But I just didn't have anybody who cared. Nobody that actually cared.
Yeah. So you feel like you have no options at that point.
I mean, even at the shelter though, I'd have to say that was the one place I felt cared about, because I felt I was around other women who were all in the same exact situation. It was like they read out of the same book.
Yes.
These narcissists, these abusers are so alike. They're all the same.
Yes.
They're all the same.
Yes.
And we all fell for it. And so we all feel stupid. So I at least was in my crowd, this time. Yeah. But everyone outside that door just treated me like I'm a burden to society.
So I would say, up to this point in your story, if there's somebody who's listening who either they feel like they're in this situation that you are in, or they know somebody who's in that situation and maybe they've reached the point of frustration, like this person is never going to leave. I don't know what else I can do or what else I can say. I want to give up on them. Like I would say the message is absolutely don't.
Yeah.
Like
show them love even if you don't have the answers or they don't do what you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the reason is they are caught up in something so much more difficult and hard and complex and twisted that we can't understand it.
You can't.
You
yeah.
know?
And the point of the person telling you, if you're the person that's not in the abusive relationship and the person is telling you this, they're not looking for answers. They're not looking for you to solve all the problems. They're not looking for anything but understanding. Yeah. And just
listen. A listening ear.
Just listen to me when I'm hurting, and don't tell me how I'm doing it wrong, because I'm doing everything I can, and it's not working. So you don't have the solutions. I don't even trust any people with solutions with my life, because they don't even know to the extent what it takes to pull yourself out. Only you can do that. Only you can. Nobody's words ever helped me, ever. And sometimes you don't even need to speak at all. I would have been grateful for that, to have
somebody to be
which
there.
I did. I had you. Like, you were that person that I didn't have to say, help me. You just listened. You didn't give me advice to go do something about it. You just prayed with me, and you just believed and hoped.
Yeah.
That was a good friend. You were a good friend for that.
I wish I would have known you a couple years before I did, but God knows.
Yeah.
We met at the right time.
We met at the exact right time,
So the story's not over. There's still a lot more to come, and there's a lot of mountains and valleys to this story, and I don't want you to miss it, because there is some great, beautiful things that do end up happening.
Absolutely.
But we want to give full time to that.
I agree.
So before we end today, I want to give Jonelle a chance to give her social media accounts out, just in case anything she said so far has resonated with you, or you just want to reach out to her. Yeah. So where can we find you?
So you can, on Instagram, you can find me under Jonelle Godin Photography. So that's Jonelle, Godin, Godin, Photography. And TikTok is just my name, Jonelle Godin. You can find me there. Immovable Ministry, that's another one. I started a ministry where I haven't done much with it yet, but stay tuned. One of the things that I'll talk about next time is the word immovable and what that means to me and how I got out based on that word. So
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you
right.
so much, Jonelle, for
Thank you
sharing
for
your story.
having
The
me.
first part and the second
I was
part
gonna
is
say,
good.
yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for having the courage to share all of that. That's a lot, and that's emotional, and
it is.
it's heavy, and
It's heavy.
you I'm anxious to hear the ending. I'm anxious to hear the hope and the joy that comes
Yeah.
from it, so that hopefully it will
It's a good one.
yeah
It's a good ending.
help
It's a really
others as
good-
well. So
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. I really appreciate that. It does take a lot, but I've been wanting to do this for so long. Like, and I've had so many people tell me, you need to write a book. This is a good opportunity for me because it is healing for one, you know, to be on your show. It's really, it's been quite healing, I think. But also it's pushing me to do what I've been wanting to do for a long time. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll finish up next time.
Yay.
All right.
Till then.
So we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.